I've never really talked about myself or my own interest in a video before, but that's all going to change today, and I'm going to express this in no uncertain terms. I love Persona. The series has everything I'm looking for in a video game. It's a JRPG with in-depth characters while taking an exciting approach to combining both turn-based combat and daily simulation into a unique experience. I could go on and on why I love Persona. The visuals, the music, the characters, but that's not what I'm talking about today, and we're going to push that to the side. On this day, we're talking about Persona coming to Xbox. To be more specific, Persona 3 and Persona 4 Golden coming to Xbox. When it was announced Persona was coming to Xbox, I was like, yeah! Persona has been a PlayStation exclusive for practically its entire life. There are a few exceptions with spin-off games, but for the most part, PlayStation has owned the Persona series for 25 years. For it to come to Xbox, specifically Game Pass, is a huge deal, and fans of the series cannot be more excited. Being on more platforms means more people can play the games, and that means more money to Atlus to make more games. It's a win-win for everyone. But there's one thing about this whole announcement that's gotten me a little perturbed. The thing that's got me perturbed about this whole Persona 3 thing is Atlus's decision to port Persona 3 Portable versus Persona 3 FES. For those who don't know, there are 3 versions of Persona 3. The first version is the initial Persona 3, which was released on July 13th, 2006. This would be the base game, and the other 2 versions would splinter off from this release. Next, there would be Persona 3 FES, or FES, however you want to pronounce it, on April 22nd, 2008. This version of Persona 3 would feature an epilogue section to the game and add additional story content and gameplay. Then finally, there would be Persona 3 Portable, which was released on November 1st, 2009. If the Portable in the title is any clue, the other 2 versions were released on the PS2, while this version was released on the PSP. That alone should be enough to get you to scratch your head. I mean, why would Atlus port a portable version of their game when a full-fledged console release was available? 2, in fact. That would be like Nintendo porting a Game Boy version of a game to the Switch when the GameCube version exists. Well, that's what I'm going to be discussing here today. I've done the sleuthing, I've done the hunting, I've gathered all the evidence I could, and the conclusion I've come to is haunting. It's a conspiracy that goes so deep it will shock you to your core. These are Atlus's true intentions. Alright, the first point I'm going to make is not really that major. It's just something that I've noticed with some decisions made by Atlus over the past couple years, so I think it's important to highlight it. And the point we're talking about is her. This is the female protagonist of Persona 3 Portable. She is only playable on the portable version, and I believe she's one of the main reasons that Atlus decided to pick this version.
Let me explain.
Since Persona 3 Portable's release, female protagonist, or FemC, has been kind of a one-off. For the longest time, she wasn't even recognized by Atlus. Take a look at the 20th anniversary website from 2016. Everyone's here except for her. P1, both P2, P3, P4, and P5. All the Persona protagonists are here except for her. It's not like the community hates her or that her game was forgotten. Theo, the male counterpart to Elizabeth, has made several appearances in spin-off games. Atlus just hasn't done anything with FemC since Portable, but that changed one fateful day. With the release of Persona Q2, a spin-off game on the 3DS, FemC made her first appearance since Portable. FemC hasn't been seen in years. It's almost like Atlus finally decided to acknowledge her existence. And this is supported by the 25th anniversary of Persona. Look, there she is! With talks of a Persona 3 remake in the works, I wouldn't be surprised if this was Atlus's way of trying to familiarize us once again with the concept of a female protagonist. But like I said, this is just a small point. The real bread and butter comes after this. And it all begins with one single word. For the uninitiated, Persona features a turn-based combat system like many JRPGs, but the main gimmick of Persona's combat is the idea of one more. Enemies, called shadows, usually have a weakness to one of the game's main damage types. Attack, gun, fire, ice, lightning, wind, nuclear, psychic, holy, and darkness. I know Nuke and Psy are Persona 5 exclusive, but humor me. When you attack an enemy's weakness, you knock them down and you get one more, allowing you to attack again. If all enemies are knocked down, you get to perform an all-out attack. This is the main gimmick of the Persona combat system, and it's been like this since Persona 3. But you may have noticed I didn't mention Persona 1 or both versions of Persona 2. These games use a formation style of combat where proximity to your opponent determines your range and capabilities. Personally, I'm not an expert on this form of combat from these earlier games. It doesn't really take a genius to know that the combat systems between these old gen and new gen games are vastly different. This may have caused Atlus to stumble a little bit in a key concept. When you engage an enemy in Persona 3, you engage it with members of your party, and it's the function of these party members that changes from Persona 3 FES to Portable. Your party members can knock down shadows, but in FES, you cannot control your party members. They are controlled by AI, and you can only give them general orders. For an example, being aggressive means they attack more, being defensive means they focus on defense, and being supportive means they heal and cast debuffs. These aren't the exact wordings of the commands, but you get the point. There is no way to control the AI, and playing this way is mandatory. This has led to some pretty funny memes from the Persona community, specifically Makaraka and Mitsuru. This would change from Persona 3 Portable onward because Atlus decided to allow you to control your allies in combat. You can still have them controlled by AI if you wanted to, but you're able to control them yourself if you desire it. And ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you, people of the internet from all corners of the earth, this is the reason Atlus chose to port Persona 3 Portable versus FES. It's clear that Atlus wants to give players who haven't experienced these older games a similar style of combat to Persona 5. Of course, coming from Persona 5, features like baton pass and swapping out party members mid-battle would be absent, but it's largely the same, compared to the sometimes unforgiving nature of FES's combat. With this decision, Atlus has stated their intentions and beliefs about the Persona experience. Combat is king, but is that the best answer? Like I said in the beginning of this crazy talk, Portable is released on the PSP. In order to fit that game into the device, certain things had to be cut to save data space. Animated cutscenes instead used still frames with some movement of the image. Traveling in the overworld was limited to a point-and-click style rather than the free-roaming avatar version. Dialogue between the cast and social links has been downgraded to this sort of visual novel style. I'm not saying you can't tell a great story with visual novels, I'm saying it just seems weird for Atlus to prioritize combat when players will spend most of their time in story sections. But there's no real way to know that for sure. The only way to back up my point would be to play through the game and calculate the amount of time you spend in combat areas. But nobody is crazy enough for that, right? Alright, let's set the stage. I'm using Persona 5 for these calculations because it's a modern Atlus title, meaning it encompasses their modern design philosophies. No cutscenes were skipped and all dialogue was run on audio. Additionally, metaverse time, as I'm counting it, consists of any time spent in the metaverse, be that at a palace or in mementos. And in terms of the Velvet Room, this would count depending on where you enter the Velvet Room, be it the overworld or mementos. Additionally, in my personal playthrough, I only played to the 4th palace in that arc because I have a hard deadline for this video and I gotta get this done.
Let me explain.
My total playtime was 46 hours and 54 minutes. Of that time, a whopping 20 hours and 45 minutes was spent in the metaverse. Busting out my Texas instrument allows me to tell you that 44.25% of my playthrough was spent in combat areas. Honestly, that was a lot higher than I was expecting. Ideally, I would have thought it would have been around 30%. That being said, my case may be a one-off. Getting data from just me doesn't necessarily prove that I'm right or wrong, and we need more data in order to do that. So it's a good thing I've asked for some help. 3 content creators have allowed me to reference their playthroughs for data. Thanks to Joseph Anderson, Shenpai, and RT Game for the help. Links to their channels are in the description. Also, the additional content added in Royal isn't being considered in these calculations. Shen's the only one of these 3 streamers who's completed it, so it's a moot point. But let's break it down. These are the overall playtimes for each streamers. But the number we really count is the metaverse time. RT spent a total of 55 hours and 39 minutes in the metaverse. Shen had 52 hours and 17 minutes. And Anderson had 81 hours and 23 minutes. Taking these numbers into account, RT has a percentage of 43.668%, Shen has a 45.685%, and Anderson has a percent of 52.18%. You may notice that Anderson's time is a little higher, but that's because he had some trouble in the first palace and died to this guy. That being said, I hope you all can notice the obvious trend. All of our times closely hang around the 50% mark, meaning the game is designed in a way to where you split your time evenly between story and combat. So I guess that means I'm wrong. But maybe it's not about the graphics or the cutscenes. Persona is all about what the series means to you and what you enjoy spending your time doing, whether that's exploring the overworld and meeting characters, or busting out the spreadsheet and crafting the most optimized Persona ever. It's all about what you enjoy spending your time on, and no graphics or gameplay flaws can change that.